How much do I need to retire at 60? Or, said another way, how much money do I need saved for retirement in my retirement savings accounts to retire at 60? Well, 60 is a great age to retire. You're over the age of 59 and a half, which means all of the IRS regulations on your IRAs and 401ks have fallen away. You've got Medicare starting in 5 years, and you're healthy enough to enjoy retirement. You can travel, play pickleball, do whatever you want to do. But if you're thinking about retiring at 60 and you're asking the question, how much do I need saved for retirement to retire at 60, there's a few factors you need to consider first. The first factor you want to think about is Social Security. When are you going to claim your Social Security benefits? We're going to do a quick example on the board so that I can show you why it's important to understand that first, and then we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of exactly how much you need saved to retire at 60. Now, Social Security is a huge decision no matter when you decide to retire. If you claim Social Security early at 62, when you're first eligible to claim Social Security, you will receive 70% of your full retirement benefit. If you wait to 67, you'll get 100% of your full retirement benefit. And if you claim at 70, you'll get 124% of your full retirement benefit. Now, you are allowed to claim any time between 62 and 70. And there's an easy chart on SSA.gov to show you what the increases would be between the ages 62 and 70. Or go to SSA.gov, create a Social Security account for you, look at your statement, and it'll tell you exactly how much you will get in Social Security benefits. But that is the first factor, and let me show you why on the board. Now, I've got a 60-year-old individual. They're trying to determine when they should claim Social Security benefits. And we're going to look at 3 distinct scenarios. We're going to look at claiming at 62, we're going to look at claiming at 67, and we're going to look at claiming Social Security at age 70. And I want to show you the difference in asset values just by claiming at different ages. And I want to kind of put to rest some of the claims that maybe claiming Social Security later is better. It depends. It depends on your individualized situation. When I run an EKG for a client, we're looking at all the different claiming ages to determine, is this the best for them? Is this the best for them and their spouse? Is this the best for them and their partner? And so what we're trying to make sure is that we're not making a blanket Social Security decision. So let's take into account a couple characteristics first. We've got a 60-year-old person. Their expenses at retirement are $45,000 a year, and Social Security at 67 is $2,800. So these are just some averages across the United States. So we're going to look at claiming Social Security at 62, 67, and 70, and we're going to assume that we have $800,000 saved for retirement. Now, that's not how much you need to retire at 60. I'm just using that as a figure to show you when claiming ages and how much in assets you would have by claiming Social Security at certain ages. So let's look at the first example. We claim Social Security at 62. That means that for 2 years, we would need to take $45,000 per year off of our retirement savings. Now, we're not going to put any inflation on our retirement savings. I want to keep this really, really baseline and simple for you. So, $3,750 a month is what we would need off of our investments per month. We're going to get a 6% annual rate of return on our money in the market. That means that this $800,000 is still invested. It's still making a rate of return. We're just going to give it a simple rate of return of 6%. Now, I like 6% because it's 2% behind the stock market average, which is 8%. Now, it's 8% since about 1950. It's higher than that if you look at the last decade, but I want to use a longer term average, and so we're going to go behind that. You can use 4%. You can use whatever percentage that you want. So we're going to claim Social Security at 62 in this first example. So between ages 60 and 62, we're taking $3,750 off of our retirement investing accounts. We're earning 6% a year. So from 60 to 62, our money grows from $800,000 to $806,357. So at 62, we turn on Social Security. Now, remember, Social Security at 67 for this individual is $2,800 a month. So if we claim at 62, it's only 70% of the full retirement benefit, which is $1,960 or $1,960. That's a good year, right? So our expenses are still $45,000 a year. Remember, I'm not putting inflation. I just want to show you a simple way to look at this. So $3,750 is our monthly expenses. Now at 62, it's going to be less our Social Security of $1,960. So that means $1,790 is what's going to come off of our retirement investing accounts per month. So from age 62 to 70, we're taking off $1,790, earning 6% on that 806 in the market. At 70, we'd have $1,081,712. So we started at 62 taking Social Security. At 60, we had $800,000 in retirement savings. Over the next decade, we've grown it to $1 million. So that's taking it at 62. What about taking it at 67, getting that full retirement benefit? Well, $800,000 in assets. Our expenses are still the same, $3,750, and we're earning 6%. Between ages 60 and 67, our assets grow about $26,000 from $800 to $826,018. But then we kick on Social Security. So Social Security is $2,800 per month. That's our full retirement benefit. $3,750 is what we needed from our investments. $2,800 is what Social Security is. So now we're at $950 that's coming off of our retirement investing accounts. Between ages 67 and 70, our investments grow from $826 to $951, $110. Okay, it's about $50,000 less than at 62. Now, let's go to 70. We're claiming at 70. At 60, we have $800,000 in retirement savings. $3,750 every month for 10 years, earning 6%. We're trying to get to that full retirement age, which Social Security would be $3,527 at full retirement age, 124% of our full retirement benefit. Between ages of 60 and 70, our assets would grow from $800,000 to $840,968. So about a $40,000 increase. Now the question always becomes, which age is right to claim Social Security? Well, if you look at this is just a small snapshot, but it depends on your individualized situation. If we go to the next decade, now this person is single. I did a single individual. What I try to do as a financial advisor for a single individual is push them to the highest Social Security. The reason for that is I want the biggest amount of guaranteed income for the rest of their life, because their retirement income is only on them, right? There's no other partner or spouse that's bringing in retirement assets or retirement income. So I'm pushing them farther down the line. Now, if the market goes down, we have sequence of return risk, meaning we lose money the first few years of retirement. So we're pulling off income from our retirement investments. The market is going down, which means we are draining our accounts quicker than we want. We may look at claiming at 62 to stop the bleeding on our retirement investing accounts, okay? So this is the first factor you want to consider when thinking about how much do I need to retire at 60, Social Security. Now let's get into figuring out exactly how much you need to retire at 60. How much money do I need to retire at 60? Or how much is the minimum amount, the least amount of money that I need to retire at 60? That's what we're going to look at on the board, because we're going to try to get the least amount of money that you need to retire at 60. Now, I don't recommend going to the least amount. What I want you to do is use the least amount and shoot for much, much more. But I want to show you how I calculate with clients what's the least amount, or what's the number that we need to be shooting for to retire at 60, and we want a lot more. Now, we've got a 60-year-old individual. This is a very simplified scenario. Keep in mind, this is very baseline and very simplified. And we're asking ourselves, how much do we need to retire at 60? Well, there's two things that we think about when we're thinking, how much do I need to retire at 60? The first, we think about the 25X rule. The 25X rule says, take your annual expenses, multiply those by 25, and that's how much you need to retire at whatever age. For this example, it's going to be at 60. So we take 25, we multiply it by $50,000. That's our annual expenses for this example. That means we need $1.25 million to retire at 60. Now, what the 25X rule does not take into account is Social Security, pensions, and inflation. Now, we're going to take into account Social Security for this example, and we're going to take into account a very simplified look at inflation. We're going to get into more detailed in the next video. But for this scenario, we're only going to look at a simplified version of inflation. So $1.25 million is what this individual needs saved for retirement to retire at 60, maybe. We're also going to think about how long do we want to be in retirement. And now that's a funny question. How long are you going to live after you retire? No one knows, right? So we have to put a asterisk by that question, and we have to say, how long do you want to live after retirement? For this example, we're going to use 100. So we're going to go from 60 to 100. For 40 years, we're going to be in retirement. So we've got a plan for 40 years of retirement income. So that's where the 25X rule kind of falls short, because it's not calculating in inflation, Social Security, and longevity. So again, very simplified, 25X rule. How long are we going to live? 1.25 million. Social Security at 67. How much do we need? So let's look at this. And I want to do it in sections. The first section is going to be 60 to 67. So we're 60 years old. We've got $50,000 in expenses, and we're going to 67. That's when we're going to claim Social Security at our full retirement age. So we're going to get $2,800 at 67. If this individual were to go to 70, we need to look from 60 to 70. They'd get 124% of their full retirement benefit for Social Security, and we'd have to change how much we need saved. Now, again, we're going to earn 6% rate of return in the market. Now, in order to get this calculation, I use an HB2 Plus calculator. It's a future value calculator. You can find these calculators on Google or in Excel, and you can do this for yourself. So between the ages of 60 and 67, based on the future value calculation, this individual needs $285,175 saved for retirement. Now, that is essentially at 67 having $0 left. I think it was like 50 cents left over at age 67. So it's not my recommendation to get the least amount. I just want to show you where we need to start. So 60 to 67, $285,175 is the least amount that this individual needs saved for retirement to satisfy their expenses. Now, we haven't factored in inflation. Let me show you a simple way to factor in inflation. We take the $50,000 in expenses, and we just multiply that by inflation. So I like to use 3%. So 3.24 is the 108-year average for inflation. So I'm just going to use 3% as a round number. So 50,000 times 3%, that's $1,500. So we're going to take that $1,500, we're going to multiply that by 7. Okay, so we multiply that by 7, that's 10,500. So we're going to say 50,000 times that by 0.03, that's $1,500. That's our inflation for each year. We're going to multiply that by 10. Now, keep in mind, inflation is a compound number. So if you want to get even more detailed, again, this is a very simplified scenario. If you want to get even more detailed, do this on a yearly basis. So take 50,000, multiply that by 0.03, then take that number, which would be 51,500, multiply that by 0.03. You can do this in Excel, and that'll give you inflation for those 7 years. But for this, we're going to make it very simplified. So we take 1,500, we're going to multiply that by 10, that gives us 10,500. So we're going to add that to this 285. So 10,500 goes here, so add that to 285,175. That means we need at least $295,675 from ages 60 to 67 for inflation and for our retirement expenses. So now let's do the same thing. We got to go 67 to 100. So we got to go a long time. Our expenses have inflated to 61,493. So that's 50,000 inflated at 3% between 60 and 67. We're going to start taking Social Security. So 33,600 is going to be our annual Social Security. So that means on an annual basis, 27,893 is going to have to come off of our retirement investing accounts, which comes to $2,324 per month. So that's what we need to live off of. So using a future value calculation, we need $400,379. Now, again, let's talk about inflation. Take the 61,493, multiply that by 3. That's 18, so multiply that by 3%. That's $1,844. Now, let's multiply that number by 33 because we got 33 years, right? So from 70 to 100 is 30, plus 3 is 33. So that's 60,878. We have to add to this figure for inflation. So plus 400, 379, we need at least 461,257. So that's the least amount with inflation added in. So we take it all together, 461,257, 295,675. Let's add those up together. 295,675. That means $756,932 is the least amount we need to retire at 60.